Hello everyone, welcome back to Alkaline Hydroxide 784. And today in the digital tools series, I can't say that word for the life of me. Oh no. So yeah, in this series we'll be looking at Microsoft Excel. So, we've looked at Word, we've looked at PowerPoint, and I think this is probably one of the more important ones for people who are into data. And if you don't really know coding, this is the next best thing you can do. Right. So actually, if you know coding, then Excel actually does have some features of coding. It's just that you don't actually need to type code. But it gives a similar vibe in some cases. So yeah, let's just go once again and go through each of the tabs, and I'll just quickly tell you what are the main features of, or like which one is more important. I'll talk more about those things rather than everything. So once again, we can look at the file, and in file we have the usual settings: home, new, open, information, you can save, you can do all the usual stuff. So this is meant for importing, exporting purposes. I can even look at new templates. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so the next thing that we'll be looking at is the home tab, which is one of the more important tabs in any of the Microsoft apps. So the home tab is where you do most of your main stuff. And here you have the usual cut, copy, and format painter. Format painter is the thing where you can copy a font from one text to another. And I think you guys know how to do that already. If you don't, then look at the Microsoft Word one. Okay, they have the usual font creating, font changing things. So you can actually change your font in here. Give it a different font. And can you change the size? You can make this bigger if you want. Yeah, so this is what happens when you make it bigger. It will actually um do the same. It'll follow along with the size of the word. It'll make this wider, to make the cell wider in order to accommodate for the bigger word. So it'll make the cell wider to accommodate for the bigger word. So apart from the size, you have the usual other font options: the bold, italic, underline. And you can even change the cell, so you can give it certain borders. So if you give it a thick outer border, you see this what happens to the border. You get the thick outer border, or you can change the which borders are actually highlighted here. So if you click all borders, it will include all of the borders in the selection of cells that you have. So it doesn't have to be a single one. It can be like this bunch of cells, and then you can click all borders, then all of the borders within it will be bolded in a sense. Or if you just have a bottom one, if you click no border first and then we get a bottom one, then you can see there's a bottom border. Okay, so that's the border part. Then there's also the cell fill color, so you can change the color of the cell to whatever color you like. So you can make it orange, you can make it green, you can make it whatever color. And then you show the text color, and this is the gradual font size changer. So apart from that, you might be wondering, usually in Word document it's really easy to put subscript and superscript, but here it's so hard to do it, and you end up copying and pasting it into Word and then doing it. But apparently you can make it into a subscript and superscript. And to do that, you can just click this. So the entire thing becomes subscript. Or if you want only a few numbers to be subscripted, you can highlight those numbers first, click the font thing. Hopefully that works. Yeah, it works. So you can actually do subscripting and superscripting here in Excel as well. Cool. So that's the font. Next is the alignment. So the alignment is where the text will be with regards to the cell. So for example, if I take this thing here, at the moment it is at the bottom align. So I can make it center or top. I guess it's not very visible here. So let's try the right, left, and right, center, and left. I think that's more visible. So I'll just go back to this. And maybe instead I'll make a wider one to show you just what I mean by top and bottom. Okay, so you see it here, it can actually change where it is in the cell. It's pretty obvious there. So apart from that, you can even change the direction of your text. Although I'm not sure why you would want to do this. It's pretty useless. But yeah, you can actually even format the cell alignment. You can even change the exact angle and everything. It seems like such a waste of time, but yeah, you can do that. And you have the other options here, which is the same one as here, the wrap text and all that. So you can see everything in one go. You can see the entire format cell, um, page here. So I'll get to here later. So apart from I'll click that later. So apart from the direction of the text, you can also do the indenting. Here there's increase and decrease indent, and there's also the thing about wrapping text. So if you see this one, it is longer than the actual cell. So there are a few options. The first one is you can wrap the text, which will just give it extra lines to do that. But if you don't want to wrap the text, it will just appear as one line. Or you could merge and center three cells like this. You can do this. So it will merge these three cells and make it into one. And this will then be centered within that one cell. Or if you are just lazy and you just want to use one cell, you can just drag this out and it will change this length here. So here you go. These are different ways to, contain your text within one single cell. So yeah, so apart from the text, you can also affect the numbers. So here we have a general format, you have the number, currency, accounting. So you have all these formats, and I feel it's easier to look at it in this menu thing. So if I click this, it will then bring you to this menu, which is a lot easier to look at. So you have the general one, and the other important one will usually be the number one. So if you're doing your scientific reports or something like that, and you want to keep everything to a certain number of decimal places, you can actually do that. So if you do that, it will make this number 12345.00, even though it has no decimal per se, it will just give it the 00. Or if it has more than two decimal places, it will limit it to two decimal places in this example. There's also different ways to represent negative numbers, and it's up to you to decide how you want to do it. Okay, so apart from number, there's currency, which is to show it in with the dollar sign and everything. Can even change the dollar sign if you want. And there's accounting, which is similar to that. There's the date, which will give a date format if you're typing dates and stuff. There's a time format. There's also a percentage format with the percentage sign at the back. There's a fraction. So the percentage one here actually converts the whole number into a percentage. So it multiplies this by 100, as you can see. So a fraction, so you can make it into a fraction as well. And you can use the scientific notation as well, which is e to the power something, not e to the power something, 10 to the power something, which is represented with the e. Or you can just keep it as text, or you can have a special one, or you can have a custom one. So there's different things that you can do here. I believe the custom one is the one that's the most like mysterious, because I haven't really used it. But for the most part, I don't think you need it. So if you need to use this, you can just search it online for more details. So yeah, that's the general one. Then the alignment is what we've seen earlier, the font. Then there's also the border, the fill color, and as well as protection. So protection, it means that if you keep it as locked, it will basically if you save your Excel sheet under a protected, protected manner, it will prevent other people from editing it. So that's what it will do. So if you click hidden, it will hide the formula as well. Yeah, so that's basically what you can do with the format. So the number ones, there's all these options are actually here as well. And here we have the conditional formatting, which you can do very specific things. You can select a bunch of cells and you can highlight certain cells. So maybe let's try with this bunch of numbers here. If I can say greater than something, maybe I can click it. It is greater than, I don't know, 46. You need to highlight it with certain colors based on your preference. Or you can do the other other kinds of rules as well. So there's a top bottom, so top 10 or top 10%. So you can actually do things like this in Excel. It is quite useful for analyzing data. There's also data bars. So it will fill it up according to how big the number is compared to the other numbers, which is pretty cool if you think about it. There's even color scales and icon sets. This one looks like the weather data and the stocks data, with the triangles that go up and down. Quite funny. Okay. So there's all these things that you can use if you want to make your Excel sheet look more interesting. There's also a format as table, which means if you created a table, you can change the color of the table and all these other options as well. So you can use the same table formatting in your Excel sheet. And there's all these nice styles which you can just explore on your own. So at the end we have the cells which you can do insert, delete, or format. So insert a cell. Okay, if I click this particular cell here and I click insert cells, I can then click, shift it right, shift it down, entire row or entire column. So if I shift it down, it will shift only that particular cell downwards. If I click the entire row or entire column, it will include a new row or column. But I feel the easier way to do it is to just click the particular cell in question, and then I can just click insert. And then to insert a row above, or if you click a row like a column here, and you decide to insert a column, it will insert it to the right of the row that you selected. Yeah, so that's what it will do. You can even delete cells, so you can delete certain cells, or you can format according to the cell size or in other methods. So you can format it in certain ways. So you can see there's even the lock cell and the protect sheet. So you can click the protect sheet in order to protect the sheet. And you can do various things here. You can change the column width. You can auto fit it. You can have a default width. So here you can see what is actually in this insert selection here. Okay, so there's also the auto sum thing here, which will include a sum. It just automatically puts in the word sum for you to select the sum of a bunch of numbers. So you can maybe click the sum of these numbers, and then it will sum it out for you. And you can do a fill, so you can fill down. If I click that, what happens is, I'm not sure what happens here. It just fills up. It just does the same. Oh, I think I know what this is. It's the same as if for example I have a formula. Maybe if I say 8 times this particular number, I want to extend that same formula to the rest of the cells. If I click this and I drag it down, it will do the same thing for the next one. So if let's say this is 8 times C4, this will do 8 times C5, and then 8 times C6, and so on and so forth. And I can do this even the other way around. So I can even drag it in this direction, and since there is nothing here, it will just give you 0. So likewise, this will give you the ability to fill down, right, up, or left, which means it will go throughout the entire Excel sheet. So that's basically that. I can then delete this thing. You know what, I'm just going to delete this particular bunch of cells. And yeah, so apart from all of this, you can do a clear. You can even clear a bunch of cells. So I can just click clear all. It'll clear the data, or you can just clear the formatting or other things that are here. There's also sort and filter. So if you have a bunch of data and you want to sort it alphabetically, you can do that, or you can do the usual find and select. So which I think you're quite familiar with this now. So you can find a certain number or word or anything like that, and you can replace it with other numbers or words. So if I say find 3, I guess it requires. I'm not sure what this does. Okay, so yeah, that's basically the home tab. Okay, so next you'll be looking at the insert tab. In the insert tab, there's a bunch of things that you can do, and there's a reason why I have all these numbers here. I'll be showing you how to insert a graph later on. So the first thing that you can actually insert is a pivot table, which will allow you to do a bunch of stuff. If you have some really complicated data, then you can use a pivot table. So if I say include a pivot table, this will do something, and I've not really used this, so it's just a special kind of table that you can use for very complicated data, and you can maybe control how the table is laid out, and you can reuse certain data more easily and do things like that. Okay, so apart from the pivot table, you can then add in normal tables as well. So you can just click a normal table, or you can put in other things like pictures, shapes, icons, 3D models. I think you've seen all of them already. The usual smart art, and you can even include screenshots and things like that. Okay, so there's also these add-ins that where you can add other app stuff like maybe a Word document or some other thing into your Excel sheet, so you can do that. But the most important and useful thing here is, of course, the charts, because that's what we use in Excel. So for the charts, usually what we do is you highlight the things that you want. So let's say if I want this set of data, so I can click this thing, press the shift button, and it will highlight everything. And I can set a particular chart to display my data. So the most popular one to use is either the line or the scatter. And my personal favorite is the scatter because it's the one that we use for doing, analyzing linear trends and things like that. So if you do it, it will appear around this area based on where you're at. So if I actually scroll down and I click the same insert chart, it will appear here instead. So if let's say you have a really long list of data, but you want your chart to be at the top, do not click the insert chart until you scroll back up to the top. But make sure your data is still selected, otherwise you have to go and reselect it again, which honestly is very troublesome. So here you can do a bunch of things to the chart. I think this is a pretty useful, important part of it. So you have all these design aspects, and I don't think I'm that interested in making it blue and all that. But if you want to, you can do that. That's up to you. But in the default settings, the more important thing are actually the elements in the chart. So the chart has different elements, and you can customize it accordingly by inserting and removing elements. So the first thing here is the chart title. Usually you don't need it because the title will be outside the chart. It will be like under the figure 1 description or something. So you can include axes, which is the primary, which is the thing with the numbers itself. Like the numbers will be visible based on which one you select. And we need those, so let's leave them in. We can even include axes titles. So let's include the axis titles maybe, because that's what you usually be including. So this will be the X values, and in science we always consider the column to the leftmost to be the X value. So if you were to just highlight the data and then open it up into a chart, it will automatically consider, I mean, if you're using scatter plot, of course the other charts formats have different ways of showing the data, so it depends on the chart format, but I'm going to discuss specifically the scatter plot because that's the one that you're usually likely to use. There's other forms of chart like histograms and all that, and if you want more details on that, I will probably create a different video for that maybe, I don't know. So basically we have the axis title here, which is, since we know that this is the X and this is the Y, let's just type this as X and Y. So if you have some other words there, you can copy and use the same words here, and also put your units and everything. So right, this is kind of helpful. So what if I wanted to, let's say if I insert a column here and I want to do 10x and compare it with y2. As I mentioned earlier, you can do this whole formula thing. So you can do 10 times this number. And then you can click this. You don't have to copy, right? You don't have to type every time 10 times that cell. You can just click this and you can drag it. And you have the 10x within 10 like 0.1 seconds. So this is very useful if your data is like 100 cells or even a thousands or even more than thousands of cells like downwards, and I don't think you want to be copy pasting it every time. So instead you can do this. Oh yeah, speaking of copy pasting, sometimes when you copy and paste a cell, so say if I copy this cell and if I want to paste this here, if I were to just paste it normally, it will just paste it with the formula. So it won't paste 560, but it will paste 10 times the relative cell that, let's say if this is, for this cell it is using A4, C4 is using A4, then N3 will be using L3, so it will paste the formula. But if you don't want that to be the case, then you can, right click and you can use special paste option. So pasting is just pasting it. Pasting the value will just paste 560. The formula is the formula. Transpose is basically like matrix, so it's not very useful for one single cell. But in a matrix, if you have a bunch of numbers, it will basically change the columns and the rows. So that's what transpose is. The formatting, which is whatever formatting the cell has, and the link. So of course there's no real link here, so it's just a value. So if I want a value, just paste it as paste value. Yeah, okay. Right. So now that we've done this data, right, as we go back to the chart tools, the next thing that you might find very useful is, of course, there's a bunch of other things here. There's a chart title, there's data labels, there's error bars, but I don't care about that. The grid line's already there, so I don't need to change it that much. You can even put it in the legend. But the next important thing I feel is actually the trend line. So if I click linear, then you get a linear trend line. But this trend line on its own is very unhelpful because I can't tell much from this. So if I click this, right click it and I click format trend line, it will bring out this wonderful format trend line thing here, and I can actually change the color and do all that stuff. And from here, I can even click the data points themselves and, just change when their look or even the marker and things. Like this circle can be changed to a square or something like that. So that's up to you to decide. You can just, play around with these options on your own. But the more important thing here is actually the trend line options. So we have different kinds of trend lines. So you don't always need a linear trend line. Sometimes you want to use exponential, logarithmic, polynomial, and so on and so forth. So which one is the best one? That's up to you and based on what you're doing. If you actually do want a specific kind of equation, then use that one. But if you're looking to just make the best fit, you can click this. The thing that I just clicked here is actually this thing here, which is display equation and R squared value. So the R squared value just shows you how good your trend line is in terms of fitting all of your data points. So the closer this thing is to 1, the better it is. Of course, this is okay, it seems like a good number, but it would be better if it's actually 0.99. So you want it to be 0.99 or 0.98 at least. So maybe you can try other forms. Will this be better? Oh, this is actually better than the linear one, as you can see. This is worse. Polynomial usually is better. See, this is already 0.99. So it's actually a polynomial 2. Sometimes increasing it makes it even better. Like, look at this. Although this is a bit unnecessary sometimes, so you need to use your judgment to make sure you're not just unnecessarily putting in super high polynomials when polynomial 2 is good enough. As I said, it also depends on what you're doing it and what is the context that you're doing this under. So, like, you must consider both the context as well as the point fitting when you decide what kind of equation to use in order to fit your points. Right, so that's great. So we managed to get a polynomial 2 to actually fit these points, which I literally just typed with my own random, I mean, not super random, but actually a bit of a logical thought process of how I should, put the points. So yeah, they actually seem to work well in some sort of a trend. And apart from the points themselves, you can, the trend line can also be used to make forecast. So you can make it forward or backward forecast, but this is not very useful unless you want to extrapolate the line, and then you can do stuff like that. So you can even set an intercept. So let's say maybe you know for sure that it must be 0 at 0. They can say, okay, we must make sure that it is 0 at 0. Of course, this may affect the r squared value because it is forcing 0, 0 as one of the points. But you don't have to do it if you don't need to. Yeah, that's basically that. So apart from the trend line, you can format everything else using this menu bar here as well. And if you don't want it, you can just click it, close it, and that's good to go. So if you would like the other forms of charts to be covered as well, I will cover it in a separate video. So there's even maps, so you can look at maps. And there's also a pivot chart, which is somewhat like the pivot table, and there's a 3D map. And I have no idea what to do with this because I don't have anything useful for putting it in a 3D map. So, a line spark line. Let's see what this does. If I click one set of data, yeah, this is a spark line. It just shows how the data varies as we go down this column, and it shows it in a line, which is kind of cute actually. But I don't get the point of this, so I guess it's useful for like stuff like stocks and things like that. So it will, if you want to update it every now and then the line will continually show what the data looks like. Yeah, so that's a spark line. Yeah, okay, so by the way, another tip for selecting your columns and rows to insert a chart. So first tip is to make sure that all of your x values are on the right and all of the y values are on the left. This will make it easier for you to do selection before you even put in a chart. So let's say if I want to use this x value and this y value, I can click shift, I can click this, and if I were to just go and click here, it will disappear. So if I don't want this to disappear, I can click control key and click this, and then I can release the control key and then shift it. Now I'll get these two columns and I can actually make a scatter plot with this, which is pretty cool. So that's one thing. The second thing is if you really messed up and you put your x values here and your y values here, you can actually switch them. Do not click this though. This is different because actually I can switch it. No, that doesn't make sense, right? That makes 0 sense. So no, let's not do that. That's not how you do it. Instead, you can click select data, and here you see series 1. You can edit it. And then what you see here is the x and y values. So what you do is you first remove whatever is here, like you delete this, and then you can you can just cut this out, and then you can put this here. Okay, fine. Okay, so here we have the y values, right? So since we want x now, I can then select this, and here I can paste the y values. And it will swap the two of them around. So yeah, that's great, right? So if I were to cancel it, it goes back to the original, as you can see. So that's how you can swap your data around if you need to. Yeah, that's for the charts. So apart from charts, there seems to be some filters. So this slicer will basically filter data vertically. So it will, I'm not sure what this does, but it does something and I have no idea how this works, so don't ask me about it. So timeline will allow you to look at specific time periods in which you added the data and things like that, so it will help to filter the data. So there isn't anything useful here for me to use in order to do this, but you can use it if you are able to do it. If you need any help with any of these things that I did not cover, you can click the help button and then find out more information on it. So at the end of it, there's the usual, there's links. I don't have anything to add in terms of link. So if you have a link, you can add it in. You can add text. You can add the text here as well. And you can even, there's text box. You can put a header and a footer. Why would you put a header and a footer? What does that look like here? You can put a header and a footer. You can put word art. You can put signature lines, and you can put other things as well. And apparently clicking header and footer makes Excel not respond. Oh my gosh, what is this? It made it look like a Word document almost. It looks so weird. Honestly, I don't really like this. Can I get rid of this? So there's some actual you can put in data into your values into your header and footer, like you can make it into page. So this looks like a Word document now. So is there a way to get rid of this? Okay, I managed to get rid of the header and the footer. So basically, if you click that, it will make it into something that looks like a Word document, but Excel. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you can include other things as well. You can put in word art and everything. And I don't think there's any need for that. So let's not do that. You can even include in equations. So you can put an equation here. I think you know how to do this already. You can even put in a matrix if you need to. So yeah, you can do the usual equation stuff. And also the text formatting here for your equation. So apart from equation, you can even just include symbols. So maybe your table has the ohm symbol and you just need that. So you can click that and you can insert it anywhere you want. So once you click insert, it will insert it into whatever you've clicked it to insert into. So I can put this thing here. Yeah, so this you can then put your ohm symbol here. Okay, apart from insert, we have the page layout. So if I click page layout, you can see there's a bunch of things that you can do here. There's the usual themes, which I'm not going to use because I don't need these themes. They'll just introduce different color schemes and stuff like that to your Excel sheet. You can choose your own color scheme and all these things that you can use. So yeah, that's just your own vibe. We can even select certain effects for your smart art and everything. So yeah, that's just for customization sake, so like aesthetic purposes. And you can even adjust margins. So maybe when you're printing it, there'll be a certain margin. There's the orientation, portrait and landscape, the size. So this is for when you're saving it as a PDF or something. That's what it will do to your Excel. So you can even set the print area, and you can include breaks. And I'm too scared to click it because I'm scared it'll do the same thing that it did for the header and the footer. So can you put in the background, which is a bit pointless, but okay. You can put a background here. You can even put print titles. So you can select certain rows to look like a title in a sense. And here you can have the width, the height, and the scale of the printing. So this is for when you're printing the Excel sheet or you're making it into a PDF. These settings will come into play. So you can even bring certain things forward and backward. So maybe let's say I want to bring this thing forward, bring this to the front, so it will hide this symbol here. And you even have the selection pane, which will basically allow you to align things and do all that stuff. And there's alignment of objects to different grids or shapes or anything like that. So yeah, I can snap it to a grid or something like that. Okay, so that's basically that for the page layout. So now let's go to the very useful part of Excel, which is the formula. Right, so in formulas, we have like the usual way of typing in a formula is just clicking this, press the equal key, and then you can type in whatever formula like sum. And once you start typing, you can see there's a huge list of words. But don't just click the thing because that doesn't actually make it happen. Okay, so if you have to click it twice, you have to double click it in order for the formula to come here. So once you click the formula, you can see that it asks you to put in certain values. So what this means is maybe you say if you need area of x, so let's say I have an area of x, and then I would need to include an area of y. So I will say this is an area of y. And then once I'm done, it will then do what it's supposed to do. But you're confused. What does this even do? Like you don't know what this does. So if you don't know what this does, you can just you can click Smart Lookup, and it will tell you what it does. So this returns the sum of squares of the corresponding values in two arrays. So basically, what this is useful for statistics because it will return x squared plus y squared, and to return the sum of everything. Yeah, so it basically sums up all of the squares in these two arrays. Pretty cool, right? So let's say if you want to drag this same formula downwards, you can do that as well. But I don't really have anything downwards, so yeah. I mean, I could drag it this way. It probably doesn't work here. Right. Oh yeah, because there's nothing in E4 and E11. Okay, never mind. So that's one way of typing a formula. So you can just start typing something, and once you see what you want, you can just double click it and then you can just do the thing. But if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to go through typing it, or you don't really know what to type, you can click insert function, and then you can search for what you want to do. So it will help you figure out what it is that you want. Maybe if you want to say, oh, square, then you click it and then it will do it will tell you what to do. So like it will tell you what this particular thing does, and you can select which one you want. You can you can look at the description and then click what you want it to do. So that's another way to do it. The third way to do it is to use one of these things, which is like the most common functions that are there. So there's auto sum, so you can click sum, average, and etc. You can look at what you recently used. You can look at financial equations, you can look at logical, and so on and so forth. Oh yeah, so this is where we look at the code-like vibe of Excel, because logical really associates itself with code. And code has a lot of similar functions to what you're doing here in Excel. The only difference is that in code, you don't really get a nice bunch of cells to click with your mouse and then nicely decorate it aesthetically and everything, but you just have to type it out all in text form. Or you have to create your own like data set to do things. So there's a lot of things that you can select here, and you can look it up on your own and then select what you want. Okay, so there's more functions here as well. So there's all these wonderful functions, and you can do whatever you want. So we can do things like this as well. Okay, so what this thing does is, let's say you want to give this bunch of data a name. So this thing can be given a name. So I can click a new one, and I can call this X. I don't know, let's call this X, okay? And I can refer this to this particular set of data here, and this will then become the X, okay? So what I can do here is I can find the sum of these data without having to select the data individually. I can click sum of X. Here you go. You don't you need to highlight all the data. So if you want to use the same set of data in many places, then you can just name it something and then use the same name in all of the formulas and stuff like that. So you can do that. You can even use in formula, so you can click the thing that you want to use and then just click use it in a formula. So okay, so the next thing here is formula auditing. So what this thing does is, let's say if you want to see what cells actually came into play when you're doing it, usually what happens is when you click it, you can see the highlighting here. So if I click this here, you can see which cells are being used. But without clicking it, you don't usually see it. So how do you do it? You can just click this and it will show you, oh, these two columns are the things that came to, influence this. So that's tracing precedence. The other one is tracing dependence. So let's say if I click this cell and I click trace dependent, it shows that this thing is using this thing. So it shows where whatever that thing is being used. So you can just remove the arrows. Yeah, so you can do this. If you want to show formulas, it will show you the formula instead of the numbers. So there we go. Error checking. You can click for error. Yeah, so this will show you all the errors that are there in your document. And you can even evaluate the formula. So yeah, it will show you how the formula is being calculated. So sometimes when you type your formula out, if you don't type it properly, then you don't end up calculating it in the way that you want. Because this isn't your pen and paper. You have to be very careful with how you type your things. So let's say if I were to just say, oh, 6 plus 10 divided by 2. What will this do? Well, this actually does 6 plus 5. But you don't want this to happen, right? If you evaluate the formula, this does 6. It shows you what is being done before the other thing. So let's say if I wanted this to actually be 6 plus 10 before you divide by 2, I can include a bracket and it will then change it to 8. And then to show you which thing is being done first. But when in doubt, use your bottomers to figure it out. Yeah. Or when in doubt, use brackets. Brackets are always useful for this. Okay, so what this does is, if you want to see a cell, like you want to keep seeing that cell, it will show you these cells as long as you you can actually see it in the watch window. So wherever you are, you can see what is in all of these cells. So that's what the watch window is. Okay, so the last thing here is the calculation options. And calculation options will show you what you can do. You can make it automatic, you can make it manual. So basically when you type a formula, it will automatically calculate it for you. So it will then just calculate it as you're typing the formula, and then you enter, immediately does the calculation. That's why you don't actually see the formula. But if you want to make it manual, you can first type in all of the formulas, and once you're done, you can click calculate now, and it will calculate everything at one go. So it's up to you to decide, but I don't think this is very useful, like very important for most people. They're just happy to immediately calculate everything. Right, so that's for formulas. Okay, so next one is data. So in data, we have get data. You can get this from another source. So that's up to you to figure out where to get it from. You can even get it from the web and from other places. So if you know how to use these databases, you can just use it to get data. You can get it from a text or a CSV. Why did I click this? Okay, you can get it from the web. So you can get it. So you can get it from a text or CSV. You can get it from the web. You can get it from a table or range that you already have. You can look at recent sources and things like that. You can look at all these different ways to get your data. You can refresh everything if you need to. Maybe if like you're getting it from an external source, the source may be updating every now and then, so you might want to refresh the data. And you can even do sorting and filtering and all that stuff. You can do text to columns, which is splitting a single column of text into multiple columns. So what this means is, let's say, for example, if you use your example, you have your name, but your name is made of two parts. You want to separate them into two separate columns, you can do that. So you can actually use different rules to split it up. So maybe you can say, oh, if you have a space, then you split it up, or a comma, then you split it up. Then it will split up accordingly. This also reminds me of code. This is very much like how code, like some of the code text, functions work. So you also have flash fill, which will fill in to fill in values. You can remove duplicates. You can do data validation. So maybe you can say, oh, you must have certain numbers only in your data. So to remove data that doesn't match the criteria, you can look at consolidate. It will so you can do various things with these tools. So it's kind of like coding as well. So for the most part, you may not use this unless you're dealing with very huge sets of data and you really need these specific tools to help make your thing faster. If not, you may actually end up doing it manually. And you can manage your data model. You can look at forecast. You can look at outline. You can group and ungroup certain things and do things like that. So I'm not very familiar with these things, but you can do stuff like that. Yeah, so you can do some summary and stuff like that. So next we have the review, and in the review we have the usual things. You can check your spelling, you can look at thesaurus, you can look at workbook statistics. Let's see what this does. Yeah, it shows you all the statistics in the workbook. You can look at the accessibility, smart lookup, you can look at translation, you can put in comments and all that. You can click your protect sheet or workbook here and all that stuff. So if you have any ink, you can hide the ink as well. So now we have view. So view, we have the normal view, page break preview. So these views allow you to look at it, and if you were to print it out as a page. So this will be useful for when you want to know what it looks like as PDF. You can also zoom in. So you have the zoom bar here, or you can zoom it here as well. Let's say if I want to zoom in, I can do it this way, or I can even just use my mouse to do it. So can you zoom to a selection? Yeah, so this selection here is way too far away. Okay, so you can create a new window, which I don't need right now. You can create a new window which will basically what this will do is, yeah, this will create a new window. So let's say if you want to work on this part of the Excel sheet here, and you want to look at this part of the Excel sheet in the other window. So this will allow you to do that. So let's say I can do this. I can go here and then type something else in the same Excel sheet. I can close this. You can even arrange the windows, you can freeze the panes and all that stuff. Okay, so this is where I have a very useful thing that you can do. You can actually just freeze the top row. And this will allow you to look at your top row. So let's say if you have a lot of data and you get confused with which data is in which column, you can freeze the top row and then you can see which data is in which column as far as you want to scroll down. You can even freeze the top first column, which means this part will be frozen, which here it doesn't make sense. So let's not do that. Yeah, so yeah, you can do all these things. If you want to unfreeze, you can do this. Yeah. So this will unfreeze the frame. You can even split the window, you can hide it, you can do all the stuff. So you can do all the stuff with your view tab. And the very final one is the help tab. So this is for when you need help. As you can see, even I don't know how the more exotic stuff that's here in Excel. So if you want to learn more about these exotic things, you can click the help button, type in what you want to do, or you can just type it here. Like for example, if I want to say, or if I want to freeze the top row, it will allow you to find out where it is. So you can just do it here. Okay, yeah, so that's done. I hope you found this video useful. If you would like to see the video on different chart types and things like that, I can probably do that. But if not, I guess for now, if you found this video useful, please press the like button and subscribe. And with that, I would like to say thank you and bye.